currently I'm the only professional South Sudanese fighter in Australia. Abdullah's the only North Sudanese fighter, And so we've talked about this multiple times, like when Abdullah eventually gets to the UFC, he'll make history. He'll be the first North Sudanese in UFC history to be signed, And then when eventually I make my way there, I'll be the first South Sudanese in history to be signed to the UFC, So it's more than just our career. It's like paving the way for the next generation and the people that come after us, And as well as like other African fighters reaching out who have already made it, it just gives us more motivation to work towards the achievements they've been able to, make a reality for themselves. And so, yeah, it's not just about us, it's about everybody else and everybody else that comes after us, And so, yeah, I hold a dear to my heart, So I got to be a good role model for everybody else that comes after me.
First of all, introducing our challenger. Out of the blue corner. He's going to step in and he does. It's all over. Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everyone, welcome back and thank you for joining us here once again on another edition of the Eternal Insiders Podcast, powered by Fight HQ, the official uniform partner for Eternal MMA. We are being joined today by one of the men set to feature on the main card of Eternal 89 when he takes on Kane Rickus in the Eternal Flyweight division. That goes down on October 26th at the HBF Stadium in Perth, Western Australia. He makes the walk for just the second time as a professional, one of the Wolves Den's finest young prodigies, Moses, the Killmonger Deng, on the show for the very first time. Pleasure to have you here, my guy. We're a bit over a week away, 7 or 8 days away from the fight, man. How is everything in the lead up to this one for you?
We're 8 days out. Camp went well, feeling strong. This fight is at bantamweight.
Bantamweight, my apologies. Sorry, of course it is.
Yeah,
Bantamweight,
so
sorry. I'm used to watching you fight at flyweight, so it's this one is a bantamweight indeed. So we can move on and talk about that one.
Camp went well. I haven't put on too much weight for this fight. I already walk around pretty big for flyweight, so I didn't really need to put on too much mass, maybe like a kilo or two. But yeah, feeling strong, feeling ready. I want to put on a show, make a statement.
I did want to ask you about that because, of course, you have fought at flyweight in the past and you have talked a little bit about, you do walk around at that larger weight and it's not the easiest thing for you to cut down to flyweight. So this one coming in at bantamweight, little correction there, my apologies. I imagine this must be a bit of a smoother camp for you being able to come in and not have that as sort of the dominant focus for you. Does it give you sort of a bit more free reign to focus more on the fight itself and not so much the weight?
Yeah, most definitely. It's a massive, massive cut, but we still make it work. And since this one's a bantamweight, I'm not draining myself as much, And on top of that, I know I'll be able to perform at 100%, because I won't be so drained. I'll be able to flow in there, I'll be in the zone.
Do you think this is sort of your home kind of going forward? Is there any intention to go back down to flyweight, or do you want to make this sort of more your home?
I want to bounce between the both of them, I want to make my name known in both divisions, but I feel like I have a lot of strength at flyweight, and it's obviously the goal is to get to the UFC eventually, and I feel like for me it would be a lot easier to stand out at flyweight. I have a very marketable personality. The flyweight division is kind of dead in the UFC. I wouldn't mind being a Sugar Sean for them, So looking forward to all that. But bantamweight's I feel like it's more of my natural weight class. And eventually I will move up, but for now I'm just gonna balance between the both of them. As well as the Australian flyweight scene is dead, bro. These guys fight once a year. They're not active. It's just full of divas, bro. None of them really want to be active.
We got to keep you active, man. You're still very young in your career. I think still just 23 years of age.
Yep.
Yeah, so still very young, so still a long time for you. But I know that you're very much in tune with how this game works. You're very much in tune with the entertainment aspect. You sort of want to get your wheels under you and sort of get this thing kind of trucking along. So I like this move to bantamweight, man. I think from what we've seen of you as a flyweight, through the amateur ranks and getting to kind of see you now as a bantamweight and not having to cut that weight, I think it's an even scarier prospect. So watch out for the future opponents there. But let's see what comes next for you in your career in terms of how that progresses for you in different sort of weight classes. Now, obviously, this is your first time being on the show, man. I know you're making a lot of waves over in Perth, Western Australia, especially, going through your amateur career, just starting your pro career, of course, very well known in those sort of regions. But for people just getting to know you for the first time, can we just sort of go back to the start of where this whole journey started for you, man? I mean, again, just 23 years of age, the beginnings of your sort of MMA career, certainly the professional aspect of it. Take us back to sort of those formative years for you, like as a young kid. Like, were you like first involved in kind of just regular martial arts and everything before deciding to transition to mixed martial arts? Like, talk about sort of those earlier years for you.
My upbringing, I just played soccer and did a lot of track and field, so I didn't really have a mixed martial arts like hobby growing up, you know. But what kind of started the passion was the Karate Kid movie back in, I think it was 2010, Jaden Smith, you know?
Oh, it's the Jaden Smith one? Oh, man. Oh, God, that makes me feel old, brother. Because, like, you're not the first person that's actually said, oh, yeah, Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. I'm like, man, that was like, I actually worked at a movie theater when that first came out. But I digress. Please continue. It's, yeah, it's great.
But yeah, so that made me interested in martial arts. But, you know, coming from an ethnic household, they're like, nah, you're not doing no martial arts, focus in school, you know? So I never really got to participate in martial arts growing up. But I was, you know, I tested the waters every other year, you know, like, Mom, let me do karate, this and this. And to my demise, I stayed in soccer because of it. But yeah, over the years, I still kept the interest in martial arts, you know? And then eventually I got to uni. I saw there was like a judo gym or like something like that at Kern. And so I went there for 2 weeks. And then after that, I was like, let me like look at other martial arts. And then eventually I found my first MMA gym, Kick-Ass. And I went there for a bit. And then obviously ended up at Wolves Den now. But yeah, it was like 11 years in the making, bro. I was plotting on it. Like, I knew my parents would never let me, but I was like, as soon as I turn 18, as soon as I reach adulthood, I can make my own decisions. I'm gonna start training martial arts, you know? And so started training at 19. I'm 23 now, so 4 years I'm already pro, coming from scratch. So it's gone really quickly.
That's crazy, man, to sort of see the development you've had in such a short amount of time. And I mean, as far as like your folks like not wanting to see you in, you know, kind of martial arts and everything, is that just because they don't want to see their baby boy get hurt sort of thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the thing is like they don't like the violence as well as I don't know, ethnic parents are very closed-minded. They think the only way to success in life is through education, which is valid, but you know. And so yeah, even it wasn't up until this year where they started supporting it. Like even throughout my amateur career, whenever I'd get hurt or have an injury coming on from training, you should quit. You should quit. Just stay in school. You should quit. But yeah, seeing the fruits of my labor now, they see where I could go with this. So I'm getting the support now.
It just shows they care, man. I mean, you know, if they didn't care one way or another, you wouldn't want that. So, you know, your folks always got your best intentions at heart, no doubt. And again, seeing the fruits of your labor and seeing how much you're making a career out of it. Again, still the early days, of course, but it's pleasing to see they're coming along for the journey, man. You mentioned there too before about, you know, starting that martial arts journey, starting at Kick-Ass MMA, of course, now part of the Wolves Den organization. Can you talk a little bit about that team? Of course, you're rolling into this one with Alden Bates featuring the main event for that interim welterweight title. Can you talk a bit about the Wolves Den team and what they've meant for you in this early phase of developing you as a mixed martial artist?
Yeah, I feel like I've developed a lot with the Wolves Den team. You know, like a lot of guys who walk around my weight, my same weight classes or like slightly above. And like it's very different because at Kick-Ass, the guys were good there, but a lot of them were a lot bigger than me, you know, weight. And so it makes it more realistic in a training aspect. And like it makes it easier to simulate a real fight, you know? And so yeah, everything's been good. And just seeing everybody else come up with me, you know, like seeing the Kevin Cop-Hamill fight that just happened with Harry Webb, that was crazy. Look at Frank Jankowski winning the belt, and now Alden gonna get his second belt, you know, taking off Hex and now taking off Eternal. So it's been cool to see us all come up at the same time, you know.
No, I mean, I rave about this so much on the podcast, and I'm sure everyone's sick of it, but the Perth MMA scene as a whole, man, is just on fire right now, and it's just sort of the uncrowned geographical king of Australia right now in terms of just...
We were slept on a few years ago, bro. It was all eastern states. Everybody was going there for the hype, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Now it's like Perth's like the hotspot for prospects and stuff.
100%, man. I mean, just for the amount of prospects, winners, like, you know, guys like that, are obviously, you know, Jack Dalla and everything leading the way in the UFC, like, you know, right down to you guys, sort of the very infancy of your career, the cards that we've had over there, the turnouts we get at the HBF Stadium is just absolutely incredible. I get what you mean about the East Coast thing because I'm an East Coast boy down in Victoria, so I get that sort of where people kind of hate that bias, but I get it, man, because I love Perth. Perth is absolutely where it's at. So you're in the right spot for the development, man. And certainly with the team at Wolves Den, only good things can certainly come from there. And just one thing I did want to ask you too, and you've probably been asked this a million times, but I mean, the Killmonger for that nickname, man, I'll absolutely love it. Where did this first come from? Is it just something that kind of rolls with the tongue? Did someone give it to you? Is there any particular meaning to it? Where does it come from?
So the main reason I chose it is because I remember after watching the Black Panther movie, I loved the Killmonger character. And I remember when I was just thinking, oh, what should I go with? Like what name would be popping? What would be unique? So then I was like, let me go on Tapology and search up Killmonger. How many Killmongers on Tapology? There was nobody. Nobody was named Killmonger on Tapology. So then I was like, sweet, I'll be the first registered guy under Killmonger. And so now there's like 2 or 3 other Killmongers, but then they ain't Moses Deng, bro. They ain't got the swag like me. But yeah, that was the main point in like choosing Killmonger because 1, I was the only guy. 2, it sounds cool.
That sounds incredible, man. I love that you had the foresight to actually jump on Tapology to check if there was anyone else that had that nickname. So, I mean, if there's other people that have come along after you, I mean, you were the original, you were the OG.
Yeah, I was the first one. Yeah.
You were the 101. I love it, man. It would instill some fear in your opponents. I got no doubt about that. The Killmonger. I knew I'd heard it from somewhere, so I dig the nickname, man. It works very well. And just like it sort of ties into that kind of entertainment aspect of the game that I know is important to you. I know obviously the long-term vision you would have for your career is obviously important, but I know you understand, the entertainment aspect of the businesses and wanting to put on sort of good performance. The influence that I know that you would also get from, other African fighters and guys that must inspire you. I know after one of your recent amateur fights, you had Israel Adesanya reach out to you in your DMs and big up your performance and everything, calling it a fatality and all that sort of stuff. And I know how much that sort of meant to you. Like, what's it sort of like for you kind of, I guess, representing, I think it's South Sudan that you represent, but being able to sort of look up to and see not only African fighters, sort of doing their own thing, but also doing it in this kind of part, doing it in this sort of part of the world, over here, like New Zealand, Australia, and that sort of thing. Is it important for you to have guys like that to sort of reach out to and to sort of look up to as you try to achieve your own dreams?
Yeah, no, it definitely means a lot to me because like, especially from where I come from, South Sudan, like there's not a lot of people representing us in the sport, like currently I'm the only professional South Sudanese fighter in Australia. Abdullah's the only North Sudanese fighter, and so we've talked about this multiple times, like when Abdullah eventually gets to UFC, he'll make history. He'll be the first North Sudanese in UFC history to be signed, and then when eventually I make my way there, I'll be the first South Sudanese in history to be signed to the UFC, so it's more than just our career. It's like paving the way for the next generation and the people that come after us, and as well as like other African fighters reaching out who have already made it, it just gives us more motivation to work towards the achievements they've been able to, make a reality for themselves. And so, yeah, it's not just about us, it's about everybody else and everybody else that comes after us, And so, yeah, I hold it dear to my heart, so I got to be a good role model for everybody else that comes after me.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I did watch part of a podcast you were on recently with the Athlete's Mind, I believe it was, with Tony. And you were talking a bit about, how important it is for you to be a good role model to the people around you. I think you said you were the eldest of 8 kids. So like a massive family and, you plan on having kids of your own at some stage. And this is an important part of your life because you want to do good things now. You want to be able to sort of set a good example. It's sort of, is it safe to assume that, while you're plotting out this journey of yours, while you've got your own dreams in mind, you're thinking about much more than just yourself. You're thinking about family and friends and what you sort of want to achieve. And you want to take the people that are important to you with you on this journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because like I was saying earlier on, it's more than just us, it's the bigger picture, it's everybody else. And so like even like life in general, because I'm still a uni student right now, I'm studying architecture, and so I get my grades right, as well as stay locked in with my dreams. I'm chasing my dreams. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do none of that. I just focus on school and focus on my career, And so I'm kind of like focused on giving them the blueprint in like building a good life for themselves, laying that foundation for them.
Fascinating, man. I didn't know you were a uni student. Just very quickly for anyone that is watching this once it goes up on YouTube, if you do notice a slight delay every now and again, Moses, I don't know if you're getting a delay from me sometimes, but I think because
Slightly.
yeah, every now and again, I think I lose you for maybe a second or two here and there, but it's okay because we're getting enough of each other. But you just mentioned there, you're doing university at the same time as training now professionally as a mixed martial artist. I know a lot of people train professionally and try to work part-time or full-time jobs, but how hard is that to be able to how do you kind of combine studying for architecture? Like, you got to use a lot of brain power, I imagine, for that, as well as trying to train as a professional. This isn't just going to work every day and turn up and doing the job. This is using your brain so much as well as training to be a fighter. How difficult is that balance for you?
It does get difficult at times. Like the last 2 semesters, I've just been doing it part-time because full-time study and training MMA is just, it doesn't mix well. I did 1 semester and it just drove me insane. So I feel like I found the golden spot in balancing my career as well as balancing training and balancing life and also studies as well. So it gets hard at times, like with the Odin fight. I took that during like the final weeks of uni where all the assignments were due. I had like 3 assignments due on fight week. It was cooked, bro. I was cutting weight. I was finishing off work, and it was hectic, bro. It was so crazy. But at the end of the day, I know my labor will be worth it at the end of the day, Everything's going to work out. I'm going to get my degree. We're going to get to the UFC. So if I'm putting in the hard work now, I can live smoothly later. So that's what keeps me grounded, you know what I mean?
I love that attitude, man. I mean, on that fight with Odin, we know you took that fight on, I think it was just 8 days notice, trying to cut down to flyweight. I mean, hard enough as it is, especially for a guy of your size. I mean, you're a stacked unit, man. So, I mean, cutting down to flyweight at a regular time, like, with a full training camp, I imagine that's hard enough, let alone trying to do this on 8 days. But, I mean, you just mentioned there that you're also training with 3 exams due at the same time, not to mention also flying, 4 hours, 5 hours across the other side of the country for a fight. To make your pro debut, no less. Like, you stacked the odds against yourself probably more than, anyone can sort of claim to, man. And, I mean, you gave yourself such a good representation of that fight until it ultimately didn't go your way. That was, of course, your pro debut, like we said, and you did lose that one. Any regrets from your end in taking that fight on short notice?
Yeah, it'll just come down to more of the health aspect of it, Like, that was the first time I've ever missed weight. I missed weight by 100 grams, and my body just shut off, like it couldn't make the weight. And even like, even after the weigh-ins, the rehydration process was just cooked because as soon as I got back to the hotel, I slept for like 4 hours, bro. All I had was a Gatorade. So as soon as I got off the scales, drank my Gatorade, went back to the hotel, slept for 4 hours. Didn't drink none, didn't eat none. It was cooked, And like, I don't mean to make excuses, but like I probably shouldn't have taken down 8 days notice knowing it was a big cut. We probably should have like negotiated a catch weight like 59 or something like that. But yeah, I feel like going into that fight, in my head, I was like, beating the #1 amateur ranked flyweight on his pro debut in his home city on short notice, that'll do so much for my career, So I was like, I feel like I got the skill to beat Odin, and this would be a good opportunity to like kind of like just rocket myself into like the good position in my pro career, So that's why I took it. And then as soon as I started cutting weight, I was like, yeah, man, we should have thought about this a little longer. Yeah.
I mean, look, it says like, I mean, look, ultimately the fight didn't go your way, man, but I think it says so much about your mindset in that, you've got to, it's one thing about this business, and I'm sure you're keenly aware of this already, that sometimes you've just got to take the opportunities when they're presented to you, and who knows, I mean, you were doing very well in that first round of that fight. I mean, it's a one punch sort of KO. Who knows what way it goes on another day, you know what I mean? So it was cool to see you make your pro debut. Either way, I'm curious in terms of the aftermath of that fight, given everything that was stacked against you, coming over, trying to juggle assignments, trying to cut weight, flying to the other side of the country, having it not go your way. Was it hard for you to process for a little while in the aftermath? Like, what was it sort of like for you trying to sort of process that once you went back home?
First, probably took a week for me to accept it. Like, I was at a flyweight. no flyweights knocking me out. But I was like, hey man, it doesn't count if it's short notice. But yeah, no, it took me about a week to kind of like accept the reality of it. And then also seeing the knockout go viral, I was like, I saw dudes get knocked out worse than I did on that card. But since it's Moses Deng getting knocked out, of course it went crazy. It got like what, 211,000 views. I was like, it's only because it's me, bro. But I'm like, give me a full camp. I'm gonna get my lick back, bro. I'm gonna get my lick back. I can't wait to get that rematch.
Yeah, so I mean, just on that, before we even look at a rematch, I mean, we've got this fight coming up against Kane Rickus in the bantamweight division, man. So it's a great chance for you to bounce back. How are you sort of approaching this fight in terms of your mentality, I guess, because you had that debut loss? Is there anything that kind of changes for you in your mentality? And what I mean by that, do you feel like you're sort of coming in with this one in like, do you feel like you got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, or do you kind of just think of that last fight as like, look, that was what it was. It's business as usual. We'll go in there and we'll set the record straight. Like, what is sort of your mindset as you approach this one for your second fight as a pro?
Yeah, coming into this fight, I do have a chip on my shoulder because like, even after that last fight, I had a lot of people like writing me out, being like, oh, Moses was overhyped. He was never that good, One loss and they forget my body of work. So I'm like, I got a point to prove now, as well as like it being a bigger opponent, because Kane is coming down like what, 2 weight divisions? Like he's fought at lightweight before. And yeah, he's fought at lightweight before. He's fought at featherweight. And I'm not too confident he's gonna make bantam, but we'll see what happens. And so I'm like, it's gonna be a bigger opponent. I'm coming off my first pro loss. Start off the pro career like pretty negatively, and everybody's saying I'm overhyped. Oh, he's washed. He was never that good. So I feel like I got a point to prove. Just gotta remind people who the fuck I am. I'm Moses Deng, and you gonna see, bro. But
I mean,
yeah.
Anyone who's got attitude just needs to look at a man that you may have heard of, Jack Della Maddalena, fellow Western Australia, that started his pro career 0-2 and then went on a massive 10 fight win streak. Well, it became more than that, but the goal was to go on a 10 fight win streak. So, the careers in the pro ranks don't always start the way you want them. And again, we have to remind everybody, coming on that short notice and giving the performance you sort of gave, just putting yourself in that position. Hats off to you, brother. You've got the chance to rectify that now. Not only a chance to rectify it, but you get to do it back home in Perth, Western Australia. You get to make the walk in the main card UFC Fight Pass with Alden Bates topping that bill for the interim welterweight title. The guy that trains at Wolves, then of course with you. With these sort of couple of factors, man, like how nice is it for you to not just have a full training camp behind you, fighting up a weight class, but also being able to fight at home in Perth as a pro and being able to roll into a main card with Alden Bates, the guy that you would train with the Wolves Den. How is that all sort of tie in for you?
Nah, it's going really good. Like, I haven't fought in Perth since February last year. That's against Liam Hoskin.
Yeah.
And so I've been wanting to fight in Perth for a minute now. So it feels good to almost like right a wrong in my home city, Big opportunity. It's a big show. And also like going through training camp with your teammates who also have upcoming fights, it kind of like motivates you to go harder, Like you're both working towards the same goal. It just motivates you so much. And even like with being on the main card, I was like, hey man, back-to-back main card positions, on my pro debut. And now this, it shows that, the promotion sees my name value and like what I could bring to the show, the eyes and the attention. So yeah, it kind of like reassures me that I'm in a good position as a mixed martial artist and a potential UFC fighter later on.
I think you've certainly got the makings of having a complete package, man. Everything from the way you fight, your style, the way that you sort of are clearly trying to manifest something with your career, not only professionally as a fighter, mind you, but also, in terms of studying to be an architect and everything too. I mean, there's just so many good things sort of going for you. You get the entertainment aspect of it. You get the hype side of it. There's so many things that you're so in tune with at just the young age of 23 years old. There's big things in your future, man, without getting too far ahead of ourselves. We can definitely sort of see that. And I think that's why you're, as you said, back-to-back main cards, especially back here in Perth where I know you're supremely popular. It's going to be a rocking card and you're certainly going to be a big part of that. And just in terms of people, we talk about your style, not only outside of the cage, but inside the cage in terms of who you are as a fighter. Just backing you up a little bit for people that aren't necessarily in tune with you. I mean, you've got some crazy power for someone that was a flyweight, now moving out to bantamweight. You've got that sort of slick style, man. Very entertaining sort of style of fighter. For those that aren't as familiar with you, could you describe yourself in terms of who you think you are in terms of your style, like what you sort of think your strengths are? Do you model yourself after anyone with any particular aspects of your fight? Like, who is Moses Deng as a mixed martial artist?
Best way I could put it is just I love to make it a chess match. I love to be technical, but also, flashy, bro. You gotta have swag in this game, not just for entertainment purposes, but also like I see it as a way to express myself as a person, my personality and everything. Like, well, I dress kind of flashy. My whole style is also flashy. And so I'm like, let me add that to my fighting style, add some aspects of Taekwondo, like my whole added Taekwondo kicks into the game because one, it adds that excitement and adds that kind of like unique aspect to my striking. And I don't really try to model myself after anybody else because that's them. I'm Moses Deng. And yeah, it may be working for them. Doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna work for me. And so I do take some little ideas from fighters, but I don't model myself after them, because as much as it is a team sport, it's still also like a very individual sport. And if you want to stand out in this game, you're gonna have to have your own style. You're gonna have to have your own rhythm. You're gonna have to have your own niche. And so I really focus on that, especially with my striking.
I love that, man. And for anyone that hasn't seen Moses Deng, you've competed at least 3 or 4 times as an amateur for Eternal MMA, of course, competed once now as a professional too. Like, go back and check out this man's fights if you haven't already, because the man's slick. He's got the skills. He's a born entertainer all around. So big things in this man's future for sure. We don't get too far ahead of ourselves. We're fighting against Kane Rickus at Eternal 89. Both of you guys coming in on one as professional now. So, I mean, someone's always got to go in this one, albeit it's going to be the O in the win column here. So in terms of coming into this fight, we talked a little bit about Kane, obviously coming down a little bit in terms of the weight and everything. Like, when you look at him and what he kind of brings to the table against your sort of style, is there something you kind of envision in terms of what you've got to do to be that guy that's going to be the first one to get that first professional win? What's it going to take, do you think, in order to get this victory over Kane?
Coming into this fight, I know Kane's definitely gonna be really hungry for that win, especially knowing he knows he's gonna be bigger than me on fight night. He's probably gonna have like, I'm gonna be real, probably like 5 kilos on me on fight night. I'm not gonna be that much bigger than I usually am at flyweight. But coming from a really good gym, they've already produced 2 UFC fighters this year alone. And so I'm like, he's gonna come in hungry, he's gonna come in guns blazing. I know he's not gonna respect my power and strength at the start, but he will as soon as he feels it. But yeah, we're both hungry for our first professional win. We're both gonna, push it we're obviously gonna go beyond our limits for this one because who wants to be 0-2? But yeah, I have to get this one back. For me, it's like a redemption arc, and it's the start of my winning streak.
I like it, man. It's got such a cool little storyline kind of built in there. I know you said a little while ago, just in terms of like the Perth gyms, you touched on there that, Kane's gym has already had a couple of guys go to the UFC, of course, talking about Louis Strode Combat Academy. You talked a little while ago about having sort of that little rivalry with Scrappy MMA in terms of wanting to beat some of the Scrappy MMA guys and that sort of thing, which is purely what I took from your part is just that kind of healthy, fun rivalry of sort of being the big dog in town in Perth. Do you kind of feel like you have a little bit of that with all the gyms, Louis Strode Combat Academy included?
No, not really. I've never fought anyone from Louis Strode, but coming from like what they've done this year, it makes them like a good, almost like, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but like beating a guy from their gym would be like a good stepping stone. You know what I mean? Like, because imagine saying, "Oh, I beat a guy from Louis Strode. They just produced 2 UFC fighters." It makes you look better. And even like with the whole Scrappy thing, I never had anything against them. It's just that at the time, they were considered the best gym in Western Australia. They produced Jack Della. They had a bunch of Eternal champions. So I was like, if I beat 3 guys from Scrappy back to back, all coming from the top gym in Western Australia, what does that say about me? I would be, obviously not officially the best flyweight in Western Australia, but beating 3 flyweights from the best gym in Western Australia, that's the argument. And so, yeah, I never really had any beef with them, but it's more like of a competitive rivalry, like Obviously, the only flyweight that they have now in the pro scene is Anthony Drillich. I'm gonna be real with you right now. I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that. Maybe later on down the line, like maybe like towards the end of next year, but maybe 2026. But yeah, 2025. Yeah, we can run it with other people. But yeah.
I like that, man. Just talking to you, like, I just really get the impression that you've just got a really in tune idea of what you want from your career. Not only what you want from your career, that part's obvious, but just in terms of sort of knowing where you're at and kind of envisioning when is sort of the right time to do sort of certain things and when you're going to be ready for certain fighters. Like an Anthony Drillich, who, of course, just competed for a contract in the UFC on Dana White's Contender Series. Unfortunately for him, sort of not going his way or his opponent's way. But, you know, just in terms that you talked at the top of the show, of obviously the UFC is sort of the long-term goal. Now, obviously, we don't get ahead of ourselves before this fight. Still very early in your career, but in terms of just you being so in tune with your path and your kind of timeline, do you kind of have a roadmap or a timeline for where you see yourself professionally in X amount of years? Like, do you kind of have a path kind of laid out for you, or are you just sort of taking it kind of as it comes?
I'll say a bit of a mix of both. You know, like for me, the year I'd envision being in the UFC would be 2026. And so kind of a path I've planned or pre-planned, you know, like not everything's going to go your way. You know, you're not going to get the fights. Some people might decline your fight offer. You know, you might not even get an opponent for a year, or you might get injured. But for me, I want to bang out 2 more pro fights this year, you know, obviously get Kane out of the way and then fight November 30, whether it's a bantamweight or flyweight, it doesn't really matter. You know, obviously in my perfect world, get those 2 wins, start 2025 2-1. You know, 3 good wins in 2025, and the year 5-1, possibly in the title picture with the Eternal. And then start of 2026, get 1 win, 6-1, Contender Series, bro.
I like it, man. It's a hell of a roadmap. Lots to look forward to in your career. It all starts here October 26th when you take on Kane Rickus, man. Are you a guy that likes to make any predictions for your fights? Do you see this one going a certain way? Anything you're sort of envisioning inside your head? What can you tell us about how you think this one's going to play out at the HBF Stadium in Perth, Western Australia?
Very, very aggressive Moses. Usually I'm very flowy, you know. I like to move around. I like to counter strike. I like to pick my shots wisely. But it will be there. But you know, there's a lot of pent-up aggression coming into this fight. So you're gonna see a more aggressive Moses, you know, and like it's also part of my growth as a mixed martial artist because I like to fight on the back foot. You know, I'm very comfortable on the back foot, but that was part of the reason why I got caught by Odin, you know? So obviously I'm going to have to make some adjustments and some changes. So looking forward to being the aggressor, you know, kind of having that Ilya Taporia kind of style.
I like it, man. Well, we as the fans and the viewers get to see how it all plays out on October 26th when you take on Kane Rickus at the HBF Stadium in Perth, Western Australia. What a card that's going to be. Your teammate, Alden Bates, at the top of the pile, competing for that welterweight title, the interim welterweight title. So many cool things to look forward to there. If you haven't got your tickets, of course, get to eternalmma.com, pick up your tickets. If not, you can, of course, tune in live and exclusive on UFC Fight Pass and check out one of the hottest young prospects in the game coming up, Moses the Killmonger Deng, live and in color on that big-time show. Can't wait to see it all go down. Moses, thank you so much for your time today, brother. All the best for Eternal 89.
My pleasure, man.
Can't wait to see how it all goes down, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, most definitely, bro. After I win.
After you win, let's get it, man. We'll get you back on the show, and we'll talk about that win.
Yeah, sweet.